Howdy bowdy. Oh, hi. How you doing there? How you doing there? Welcome to the House of Gravy, motherfuckers. Welcome to the House of Gravy, motherfuckers. We're about to have some gravy. Stick with us, you know. Would you like some gravy, baby? It's all gravy, baby. It is all gravy, baby. Cheers. That's gravy. Well, actually, it's cherry cock, but, you know, it's cherry cock gravy. If you're new around here, cherry cock is the name of the strain. Well, actually, it's cherry cocktail, but the jar says cherry cock. It's cherry cock. I do enjoy putting this cherry cock in my mouth. Actually, not really, because, well, I mean, I do, but you know, this cherry cock does not taste the greatest. It's worse though at first. The taste about cherry cock does grow. You know, you get used to it. Doesn't really grow on you, but you get used to it. She is over here looking at me like, "Stop talking about your cherry cock, Homan. You're gross." Either that or she's thinking, you know, why don't you let me get a little bit of that cherry cock? Bitches love cherry cock. So if it's not oblivious, you know, I like the camera. Um, there are a few caveats to it. I haven't done extensive testing with the autofocus, um, but you know, it seems to work okay. You know, definitely much better than the GH5 or the GX85. I think the autofocus worked better on the GX85 than it really did the GH5, which is weird because the GX85 was like budget, like entry level sort of mirrorless, and the GH5 was like a couple steps up from that. And this is, you know, big step up from the GH5. To be fair, you know, this is full frame. Obviously, you know, full frame because it's in the title of the whole thing. Tommy G goes full frame. The autofocus does sort of bring me to one of my gripes about this camera, and the reason that the autofocus is brings up this gripe is because with the GH5, you kind of like get used to using manual focus a lot because you know the what's it called, the contra based you know, like pew 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 contra based autofocus is not very good. So you know you do a lot of either single click autofocus and then set it for manual from there, you know, just to get it set. But you get used to being in manual focus a lot. And so the cost of lenses is, you know, on the verge of being ridiculous for this camera. For, you know, the GH5 is a micro four thirds system. And so generally, you know, you could get those budget lenses where they don't have autofocus, and you know, you just manual only, and it's not a big deal because you're in autofocus most of the or manual focus, you know, most of the time anyway. You know, I've got a couple manual focus. Was it this? It's either the Seven Artisans or the TT Artisans, whatever lens. I can't remember which, but you know, they're both great lenses. You know, or good enough lenses. One is a macro, and the other is a like wide fish angle or fisheye wide angle lens. But even most of the like official like Lumix G series lenses, I think were like a few $100s or something maybe. They weren't super expensive. The kit lens for this camera, if you buy it, and actually I got news on that, sort of. I'm trying to not get my hopes up, but I'll get to that in a sec. But the kit lens on, if you buy it at retail, is like $600 for a kit lens. And that is a 20 millimeter to 60 millimeter 3.5. And by all accounts on YouTube, it is a good kit lens. It really is, or at least it looks like it's a good kit lens, and that's what the sort of consensus on YouTube is. Though a lot of them, I'm just keeping some what do you call it, skepticism, because ShillTube, But anyway, but $600 for that. Yes, that's a little bit much. Fortunately, I have a bid on one on eBay right now that is currently at $200, and you can find them. You can find that lens used on eBay for, between $200 and like $400 used. So that's good at least. It would have cost me, I think, another $300 to get that kit lens with with this camera, but I couldn't afford that extra $300 on my payment plan, and it did fortunately have an offer for, buying the body only camera, being the $300 off, and getting the was it the G series 50 millimeter 1.8 free with it. So that's what we're filming on right now. We are at ISO 640 with the shutter set to the 180 degrees, and the aperture still down to its I guess maximum, minimum, however you want to look at it, at 1.8. Tone, or whatever you want to call it, and it's. I think it looks damn good. We are filming an open gate, and the problem with open gate is that it's you're gonna have to crop in to fit it to 16:9. I could do vertical without having to crop in, like right, if I put this like right here, maybe I'll do a separate vertical portion of this part of the vidya right here and like slap it in like I used to do with your mom. We'll see. We'll fit about it. Anyway, where was I? The cost of the lenses, because I feel like I need the most important things that I need lens wise is, of course, the 50 millimeter is, in my opinion, probably the most important focal length. But, I also need a wide angle, and I also need a zoom lens. And that is going to be my current problem, even if I do win the auction on that 20 to 60. The zoom lens, there's two zoom lenses I've seen on B&H, I think it is, from the Lumix S series. And one is, is it 40 is it 40 to 200, something like that. And that one's like around $1,000. And then for $1,200, the one that I want to get is 70 millimeters to 300 millimeters. That's a good bit of zoom. That is a lot of zoom, and I could benefit greatly from that much zoom. But it's $1,200, and I get it. There are lenses out there that cost way more than that. I've seen some of these lenses out there, some of those like Artisans and Cine lenses and stuff like that. Well, they have some Cine lenses in micro four thirds, I know, for around $1,200. I don't know how much those same cine lenses are for L mount, but I've seen some lenses like $7,000, $8,000. Lenses. Some lenses can get really, 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 really expensive, but it's like without giving up your autofocus, it doesn't seem like there's anything cheaper, even from another brand. And yes, I know technically 20 to 60 millimeter is a zoom lens, but you know what I'm saying, a real zoom lens. There is a 85 millimeter prime that I think is around $600 or $700, but again, that's a prime, and it tops out at 85 millimeter. I mean, well, of course, it's a fixed 85 millimeter. It's a prime lens. The plus side of that is that it has a faster aperture, but 1.8, but and the zoom ones are either 3.5 or 4.5, which is a big difference, especially if you're going to be filming something in low light. That slower aperture really can hurt you, because the faster your aperture is, forget about the bokeh and stuff behind me. It's the low light is the thing. The low light is the thing. That being said, I guess I can insert part of that into here right now as I'm talking about it, but the low light test I did was not very typical. It was like, dark. It was dark. And actually, it did make it look actually darker than it actually was. The way that it looks in the video, it looks like you can't see anything to walk around, and I definitely could. But that being said, there was very little light out there. That was, as a matter of fact, that was Christmas night. And, the only real light was up on that was inside the house, but the house was like behind the camera. And so, the only light in front of the lens was that little church up on the hill, and, a few straight lights and stuff in the distance, and a couple cars going by. You could see their headlights and stuff. But there wasn't any lights, I don't think, between those things. So it was, so it was pretty black. But it was very, very, very pleasing to me because, boy, that black is clean. Look at it. That black is black, and it is not a bunch of noise and grain. And, part of the reason for that is because, this camera has that dual band native ISO. And so the native ISOs are 640, which we are at right now, and 4000, which we were at for the low light test. And that should be called the no light test, but there is a tiny bit of light. You got to have something. You got to have some type of light. The reason that I did the pan thing was I wanted to do a little test. So this was more of a test in, software and editing and rendering than it was of the actual camera. But I wanted to see, like, if I worked on a 1080 timeline and then rendered also in 1080, even though the footage was shot in 6K, would I lose resolution in the crop in any more than I would if I was editing on a 6K timeline and then rendering in 1080? And so I did the side-by-sides. We'll switch to that right here. And as you can see, yes, it actually was a little bit different. The one edited in 1080 was a little bit more fuzzy, just a little bit, a little less detailed. And the one edited on the 6K timeline had a little bit more detail. So that absolutely did make a big difference, a pretty big difference in that pan and crop. And that is, for the record, one of the main reasons of why I wanted to edit in 6K, or why I wanted to film in 6K, because and why I filmed in 4K on the GH5 even when I rendered in 1080, because when you're filming in this case 6K, and then you're rendering in 1080. I'm sorry if I just repeated that like 24 times, but you know, you can crop in up to 6 times before you start losing resolution. So that is the big reason for me wanting to film in as high a resolution as possible, because then, I can crop in where I need to and not have it come out grainy and dirty and, fuzzy or whatever. But of course, pro tip, when you're doing that, we're talking about editing in a 6K timeline, is going to slow down your computer. Is going to be very resource intensive, and I can't afford, and most of you probably can't afford, a lot of you probably can't afford, especially when you done dropped, 2,000, 3,000, whatever, on a new camera, a supercomputer that can really handle editing in 6K. So, I mean, well, it's different if you're editing like 8K off of the, what do you call it, the Insta, is it Insta 360 X5? Because that's not real 8K. That's not real 8K. That don't count. Although that will slow your computer down more than normal. Whatever. Anyway, we're not talking about that camera. So the trick is go ahead and edit in 1080, and even better, edit in a 10K timeline and use proxies, because that's going to be so much faster. The trick is go ahead and finish editing and everything in 1080, but then before you go to render, go into your timeline settings and then change the timeline to your 6K or your 4K or your 8K or whatever. Then at the last minute, when you don't have anything left to edit, then when you go to render, you're going to probably have to, this is using DaVinci. It might, work a little bit different in other software. I don't know. Anyway, and Resolve. Then when you go to render, you're going to want to have, it's going to natively try to like make your render resolution in 6K unless you automatically choose a template for like YouTube or whatever. Anyway, yeah. So you're going to want to change that resolution back down to 1080 for the render. But then your timeline setting will still be in 6K or whatever, and then your render will be in 1080. Just a pro tip. So then that way, you can edit nice, easy, fast, and then still render with that quality. Just a pro tip. Well, I don't know if I wouldn't call myself a pro really, but tip. Just the tip. Also, the audio is, well, I'm just going to say it's a little bit annoying, just because there's a feature on there for their, what do you call it? It's like the audio handle thing, so that you hook it up to the hot shoe, and it's got connectors that hook up to the camera, and then you can use like XLR mics and stuff with it. And I don't think that this one has the 32-bit float enabled. I might be wrong about that. I don't think that it does, but so there's 4 channels of audio, and I can't seem to find a way to change that 4 channels of audio. So I'm not using that 4-channel input thing. I'm just plugging the DJI mic receiver into the auxiliary, the microphone input on the S5IIX. And, but so then when I go to load it in DaVinci, there's 4 tracks of audio there, even though I've only recorded 1 track. And the first 2 tracks will both be this microphone, and then the other 2 tracks will just be empty tracks. So like I have to like actually go in there and unlink the clips from each other, and then go in and just delete 3 of them, and then turn the first track back into like a mono track. And it's just a little bit of extra work. It's not really much extra work. It's like maybe a minute or 2 worth of extra work. But when you're editing videos, or producing music, anything like that, it's a very tedious job. And every few seconds of time that you can save is gold. Time is valuable. The more time you can save without taking cheap shortcuts that degrade the quality of your product, but any shortcut that you can take without degrading the quality of your product is good. So it would be nice if there was a setting that you could change inside of the camera, so that instead of recording 4 channels unnecessarily, you could just record that 1 mono track, or maybe even a stereo track. That would be better. At least that would be half of the work. Because this does have 2 microphones for it. So, if I wanted to have, it'd be nice to still keep that stereo, just so that if I had somebody else in here with me, probably not, because nobody likes me, but, I could have these 2 mics on separate channels, and, blah, 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 blah. That is definitely another complaint. I definitely like the look. Picture profile, I've completely forgot to even mention this, is I think it's the S5IIX D. There's 2 different ones. Oh yeah, there's S5IIX D and S5IIX V, or something like that. I think we're using the D. I think I'm giving you guys the D. It's a S5IIX 2, I do believe. I give you the D2 or something like that. I don't know. I'm sorry for being gross. But, I think it's a great picture. It works fast. The autofocus is so much better than the GH5 and the GX85. The battery is a lot better. The battery lasts a lot longer, even though I've gone through 3 batteries today. But I've filmed a good little bit of stuff. This video right now, we've been filming. I mean, there's going to be little parts edited out, but, this video right here, we've been filming for like 30 minutes. And I'm about halfway, I think, through the battery. So figure about an hour on the battery. Sorry, I'm scratching my leg. But, yeah, that's not bad. I do also have the, we explored that in the unboxing portion of this series. The NPF plate with the dummy battery that does work and attached to this camera. It works just fine. So I do have NPF 940 or something like that battery that can get me, or at least hopefully get me several hours. I haven't done a time test on this camera. Maybe I'll do that later as like an addendum thing. And if I win that other lens, I'll do an addendum, sort of an addendum too, to, look at that lens. Or at least, just film something on that lens. We'll see about it. But where was I going with that? Yeah. I think was like, I can't remember if it was 7 or 9, but I got several hours out of that NPF battery on the GH5. So I would assume I would get at least half of that on this camera. This is probably a little bit more power hungry of a camera because it is full frame. There is also a fan inside of the camera to keep it cool and everything. I did have to turn the thermal management to, what was it? I had turned it to high. I forget which way it had to go. I apologize for that. But because if you leave it at its default setting, when you're filming at 6K, it stops at 30 minutes. And so you had to turn it down or whatever to, get back to like unlimited recording. And sometimes for me, I tend to ramble and rant and whatever. So, like, sometimes, 30 minutes is just not enough. This right now, we've been recording for about 34 minutes. This would have automatically stopped recording a few minutes ago. I don't want to sit here all fucking night just rambling. But, if there's anything else you want to know, put it down in the commensal section down below and down in the poop deck and down in the hall or whatever. Hey, girl. And, yeah. But overall, I am not, I'm going to be paying on this for the next 6 months, but, I do not regret my purchase. I do not regret my purchase. I do not regret my purchase one bit. Not one iota, as they say. Not one piece of Yoda or Baby Yoda. Well, maybe a little bit of Baby Yoda, I love you, Grogy. But yeah, so I look forward to making more content using this. I do plan on making some like nature relaxation videos again using this camera. I don't know how, when, why, where, or any of that yet. It's just in my head, in my head, in my head. I also, on a side note, have a couple things I want to do planned out for future ride-alongs, hopefully this coming season. We missed some things that I wanted to do this past season, but that's another aggravating thing. I wasn't planning on starting to doze off every single day and then becoming unsafe to drive. I'm sorry. And now it's all cold. Now it's too cold. But yeah, what was the other thing, and I look forward to also, trying to do more still photography again. I hadn't really been doing still photography in a long time, and, I kind of miss doing that. I wouldn't mind getting out here and photographing a few cemeteries like the old days. You know, the problem with that though is that I can't move around and like bend up and down like I used to. I used to love getting some of those shots. Like there'd be like little angel statues or things like close to the ground, but I wanted to like get down and close, and so I'd like get down to the ground physically to film it. The good thing is though with this camera is that it does have the flippy out thing, and so I can kind of like squat down as best as I can and just tilt the screen up and try to view it that way. Unfortunately, in great sunlight, with great sunlight comes great eye strain or lack of visibility. With great, whatever. You know where I'm going with that. And maybe one day I'll actually find people that want to, or at least willing to work on me with some of my like actual filming projects or ideas of stuff I want to do. Just because some of that stuff can't be done as a solo thing, and Keys doesn't have opposable thumbs, unfortunately, and she also doesn't speak English. So, I love her, but, she's, as far as like filming goes, she doesn't do much good other than look pretty, and that's something. That is important, is looking pretty for the camera. And she does that very well. Yeah, so again, my overall conclusion is I fucking love it. Um, and yeah, if you're on the fence about whether or not to buy it, I can't compare it to other cameras. I'm sorry, because I can only afford the one. So thank you all for hanging out, sticking with me through this whole series, or just this video, or just this portion of the video, whatever. I appreciate you. I love you all, and I'll see you in whatever's next, baby. Love you. Bye bye. I love ye. Love ye. I love you. Keys, I love you. Just so you guys could see, without the bokeh, what was behind me.